works. It looks like it's working. We validated as much as we could, but I want to make sure expectations are where they should be. 1 July is when we actually start using the system beyond just developing our budgets. So we've got from now until 1 July to make sure all of our data is actually bang on exactly where we want it. We're seeing some quirks and stuff. So we're working through that. Hopefully by the time we get to March, when we turn the system on for you guys to start looking at budget information, we'll have it all dialed in at that point. In May, we will, May is when we finish, like a major milestone is in May. And then the idea is that we're going to give you guys your budgets and publish your budgets in July instead of later in the year. So we're going to try and get you guys started with your budgets at the beginning of the year. I think with that, I'm going to turn it over to Yolanda. If I can get this thing to work. Why is it not working? Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. There you go. All you now.
Thank you, sir. All right, good morning. Okay, so here's the agenda as far as Questica and the budget timelines, the definitions. We kind of narrowed in or zoned in on what mandatory is or isn't and what non-mandatory, the definitions for those items as you budget for those. And then we're gonna just give you an update on the highlights of the various work groups, what the budget office is currently still working on, and just a bleep about the pilot user group and campus training we'll start in February. I guess I should be talking into where's the, and I'm going too fast. Okay, so the timeline is still similar to what it has been. The governor's budget did come out on January 10th. We don't have our documentation from the chancellor's office yet. So we'll be waiting on that. We should receive that by the end of February. And then that will give us a basis on which we can start building our budget for the campus. And then March 9th, is our deadline internally that we've given ourselves to, inform leadership of what our budgets will look like and what they have to work with. And then our current year position list will be due into the budget office, which we hope to be doing that in Questica though. That's the goal. So Bob's feverishly working on validating that kind of stuff so that you have a clear slate from where we'll be starting with positions. And then we're scheduling a strategic budget committee meeting after that so we can give them the highlights of where we are as far as what the CO's budget looks like and what that means to our campus. And then we'll move on to submitting the lottery budget, EIP's budget, the same various things that we normally have to do, as well as our one-time, our mandatory and non-mandatory budgets. However, I guess we received information yesterday that we won't be funded for enrollment growth. So we're kind of going to be flat for this year, which is not necessarily good news, but we still will receive probably retirement and health, compensation, grad initiative. So we will get some monies. However, that may mean the base may not change. It may be one-time monies, which we typically get, and mandatory. So that's kind of what we're looking at. More to follow when we find out what's actually on the CO's memo. So then April 1st, we're going to move on into consolidating the budgets. That's a budget office function. So everything that's been submitted through Questica, I think originally it said we compile the budgets. They should already pretty much be compiled. We're just consolidating them, whatever's in Questica already. And then the vice presidents will confer on the various budgets and what needs to be eliminated, or they'll do their thing. And then from that, the divisions will do their presentations April 24th for the strategic budget committee. And then the governor will have his final budget in beginning of May 8th. Then we're holding a date May 12th, should there be additional decisions that need to be made. And then February 15th, we're expecting everything to be finalized. We're expecting to have the 2021 position list done. We're expecting the state to be done with their budget. And in turn, the CO will issue a final budget letter. The campus will make its final budget decisions. The president will approve the budget, and then we'll get something out to you in June that tells you what it was your final budget ends up being. I didn't have a final date on that, but before June 30th, you'll know. And then July 15th, which is the same date actually as last year, we'll start doing our trust budgets. So those will be due into our office, and then our true up of lottery, EEIP, and those outside budgets. So this is the budget timeline. It's also on our website right now as well. And then I just want to run through the definitions on what's considered mandatory and what's not. And these are Chancellor's Office definitions. Well, we originally, no, it's not. We originally got the definitions actually off the Chancellor's website, right? And then we vetted them through the Strategic Budget Committee. And then they felt that there were some additional definitions that needed to be added to really, encapsulate what our budget would be. So CO mandatory costs, we have two types of mandatory costs, CO mandated or CO mandatory. So for example, we might get a charge to the campus. It might come on a CPO, a cash posting order, in which they've already taken the money for, whatever it is. Like sometimes there's system-wide software. They will take the money and ask where do you want to book it? I mean, accounting will ask you, where do you want the charge to appear, but the money's already gone. So that's a CO mandate. We don't have a choice. It doesn't matter if our budget is flat or growing or whatever. We don't have a choice on it. So that's what we're considering CO mandatory. And then our campus has mandatory costs, which again, but these are out of our control as well though. So it could be something legal or some kind of compliance issue, some kind of like minimum wage went up for everybody. So we don't have a choice on that either. So those things are funded and we're considering that mandatory because we don't have a choice, right? But it's not CO generated necessarily. It's kind of by law. So non-mandatory. So I think that this campus required non-mandatory definition kind of fell. It's been kind of a hybrid falling into mandatory and non-mandatory. So we're saying that these things are like, so if we have a contract, I don't know, pick landscaping contract or something, it's something that we have to do still, but we might have a choice on renegotiating a contract or something of that nature. It's something that maybe we can hold off on. So maybe if we have a system upgrade, for example, let's say the system upgrade is not something that's not going to be supported right now. Unlike like Windows 10, I think it's not going to be supported. So that's probably going to fall into a different category. But let's say we want to upgrade to stay ahead of upgrades, but we don't necessarily need to do it now. So that would still be a non-mandatory because we have a choice in the matter still. And also like membership costs, as we talk about the incremental cost increase. So you might have a membership that we're already paying for. It's already in your base budget, but it goes up. So what you would be asking for is the incremental cost. And that all falls under this same category. And then we have our strategic initiatives. So these are things that tie to the strategic plan, are things that it may directly, it may indirectly, but still you can tie it to the strategic plan. So the goal would be is as you're requesting these types of monies in Questica, you would be able to explain this ties to the strategic initiative and this is how, right? So that's your justification for asking for this category. And this would include student success initiative, additional staff to improve your services. And that's what we're deeming to be strategic in nature or related to the strategic plan. But then the Strategic Budget Committee also said, well, everything may not fall into that category. There may be other things we need to ask for that aren't directly tied to the strategic budget, but we need it still, or we'd like to be able to request it. So let's say you have a program that's already running, but you want to offer new services, you want to make your services better, that will fall into this other category. So it may not tie to the strategic plan per se, but it probably still somehow relates to student success still, probably. But we're not saying it's directly. So we just have this other category for things to fall into. And so these are the 5 definitions of mandatory and non-mandatory. And then as we talk about our work groups, so I was just going to give a highlight of where the work groups are or the work that they completed. And this is kind of how we defined what a work group was going to be. It was a group of thought leaders that could come together and bring their ideas based on their operational needs or based on their knowledge of their areas and how we can make these different work groups work better, or how can we make Questica help, right? And so the work groups had ideas, and each one did a report. The reports were posted on our website for your viewing, because I'm just going to touch a couple highlights, which you can go get the rest of the details on our website. And we had several people who volunteered knowing that this was going to touch them in some way. So we have the reporting group. This was the group I headed, and we kind of focused on the ability of the system to have one place to view salary information and operational information. Because right now we have CMS, which has all the salary, employee information. Then we have the operating system and data warehouse that has all your operational and more global salary type information by account code. And so this is what we kind of focused on, is how can we have reports and functionality so that the campus could see information from both those systems in one place. However, it may be that based on your function or based on your role or what it is you need to see, you may not use Questica for this purpose. It may be that you still use data warehouse or CMS, but we're trying to at least get the information in one place should you need that. And so we're trying to see how can the system also meet some of the custom needs or specialized unique needs of like EIP. And we're still working on that. So it looks like we have the ability to customize and build some of our own reports, which we're working feverishly on that as well. And we want to create some standardized reports so that when you go in, these are the reports that everyone gets. But we want to make sure that that's something that you really need, something of value for you. And then the one-time base budget group, Lori Dixon headed up this group, and just they focused on what the current process was, and then in their report they find that the current process actually isn't a bad process, but what Questica will give to that is workflow, right? So it'll be able to, the touch points of who needs to see it, and since it's in the system, we're hoping that that moves smoother. So the topics they discussed was how we'll streamline the process, how it will create transparency, and how that will provide leadership with the information they need for decision-making purposes. And then the position budget management group, which was headed up by Bob Cabillas, and which is turning out to be like the most challenging piece of this all, is the salaries and trying to make sure we have the right information and making sure we're pulling the right information and it makes sense when you look at it. Their team focused on the fact that we do need position lists as we have used them in the past, but we're trying to automate that and put it in a format in the system so that you don't necessarily have to do a spreadsheet behind the scenes. So the challenge is how to keep that current and how to mirror what it is you're kind of doing now. But with any budget, that's the largest part of our budget, is the people costs and benefit costs. And hopefully this will also streamline the process so that you can receive more timely information on when GSIs and merits are posted. And then we want to be able to use the system to do projections. So it does have the ability to have like a sandbox area so that you can do projections as you're developing your budget. And so we're just trying to figure out how to get this all together for you. And this was kind of some of the highlights that group was working on. Again, should you want more amplifying information, it's on our website, right? Because it'll go into all the things that they were looking at. So. And then the communications group, which ended up being kind of a different group. It was kind of a conglomeration of all the other groups, because at the end of the day, reporting, positions, and the one-time and base budget requests, how do we communicate all that to the campus, right? So on a lot of their topics, just kind of, we all fed into that. At the end of our projects, it was like, okay, now how do we communicate that, right? So they focused on particular kinds of communications. So some of the ideas were posting it on the campus dashboard, but we know sometimes if you don't look at the dashboard necessarily in the course of your day, it just keeps moving down, right? So then the finance webpage, the Questica dashboard, but then also we'll have a memo that comes out from the president and CFO on when the budget is approved. And then possibly somebody mentioned admin finance newsletter, and maybe we might have a finance corner or something like that. So there's ideas out there. Again, you can check our website and see in more details what this group talked about. And then this is the website to get to all those presentations, as well as the campus timeline will be found on just a budget office page versus the Questica project page. Oh, and a sneak peek at a couple reports. Mind you, we're in process. Now you can't see this, really, can you?
But if you look at PDF, obviously you can actually read it. I promise.
So actually, I think this one might be the first one where this is showing more global by the
Yeah, that's a summary.
summary by account code category, I guess. So you will see salaries.
What are the headers there? Maybe we can talk about the headers there.
So yeah, salary 601, and you pull this in your warehouse now. Many areas will pull up that way. 603 is the thing. And then you have typically use operating expenses by a higher level. Expense category. Oh, I'm sorry. And they're probably saying, I can't hear you. Okay. So anyway, the categories are salaries, benefits, and O&E. And then there's a few different. Across the top, you have your original budget, which is the budget you would start with at the beginning of the year. But then you have your updated base, which will be things that happen. So your new requests would probably fall into that category. And then you'll have your final budget column, which is the third column, the third shaded column. Then you'll have your actuals and your encumbrances. And so to be able to see that all on one page. And then there is the ability to further drill down into the various categories. So this is just clicking on 601 as a salary category and then seeing all your all the account codes that fall underneath that. Same with benefits. We didn't expand that one because you typically don't even look at benefits since the campus is. There's a question in the back.
Well, let me expand on this. When we were looking at this, we were looking at what are you currently looking at in data warehouse? And one of the things is most of you go into an area called manage my budget. So we were looking for something that was set up very much like that report, and as a starting point of trying to develop something that will work well for the campus itself. One of the nice things about this is when you pull it up in the data warehouse or in Questica, it gives things in much the same order. And in Questica, you can actually collapse it or expand it. But when you also export this out to Excel, that expand and collapse still exists, which that doesn't happen when you're doing it out of the data warehouse.
Correct.
There is right now a capability to drill on the actual while you're still in Questica, and it will give much the same type of data that you would see in a data warehouse drill at this point in time. This is not one that would give you people's names in the salary area, but it gives you the same type of lines there. We're also working on checking out other reports that will combine with the actual labor data too.
So that you'll be able to expand say in 601 and actually see the people that are associated with the various account codes. So we're feverishly working to try to get that out to you. But we want you to have something that's really of value. So bear with us. This is phase one. And then just highlights on what ASM and the budget office are concurrently working on together right now. We're working on the user roles, which I believe we've defined those, but then now we've got to actually put them in the system. And security permissions, still kind of speccing that out. We're still validating salary information. And then we are creating the learning tools for the campus users. So we've got to have some stuff available when we offer training in February. And then we're testing budget development. We're working on that. And then also as part of that, many of the same members who were in the work groups also volunteered to be part of the pilot group to test the system. So we're, as part of the whole working out the user roles and all that needs to be completed before we can give access to the pilot group. But we know who that is, and we're working hard to try to get that done.
Yeah.
So this is kind of where we are now. Let's take an update. Any questions come on that? Go back to that. Any questions online? No? Question?
Can you explain how this is different from financial data?
It's different because you can get your people detail and your operating detail in the one system, where now you have to go to two different systems to obtain that data.
Well, the big difference is this is a budget police, where the data warehouse is
And data warehouse doesn't have workflow either. So that as we develop the budget, it can go from the user to the next level of the next reviewer level who can approve that budget and go forward.
Okay, so you are saying that this is where I'm looking out for my budget?
Possibly, it depends. It depends
How
on
would that be useful to me as a manager?
knowing that I know your area.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm thinking you could probably use it because it would give you your people data in one place also. So what you're looking at right now is data warehouse. And for a smaller department, data warehouse still might be okay because you know who the people are because there's not a lot of people in each category. But you cannot drill down to the actual person's names and that kind of thing. So this allows you to actually see the names of the people. Right now you see like 601-300, which is support staff, but you know you only have two people in support staff. So it's easy to delineate. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
So one last question.
Yes.
I wouldn't want to go to, I don't want to go to the data warehouse, take finance, and also go to the too much. If I were to choose one to help me do my job, the financial area for my small department,
I think that's your preference and what you're comfortable with because you tend to touch your budget a little bit more than some of the other managers might. And so it depends, I think, on how your area is set up. And so you might be comfortable with what you have already.
Yeah, I think a lot of these questions will also get answered for you when we go through training. So,
Any other questions? We'll try to get you another person. It's gonna be a while before you retire. I know, right? Thank you. On to the next finance group.
All right, everyone, good morning. Brenna Dresser, I'm General Accounting Manager, for those of you who don't know me. I'm here to share some finance and procure to pay type updates and initiatives we've been working on, and we're actually ready to roll it out so you guys can utilize these new exciting developments. So I'll just go straight to here. So first thing, big news. We are now able to pay vendors through ACH or direct deposits. This will alleviate the process of cutting a check, mailing a check, and the delays encountered that way. In order to utilize this, we can use PaymentWorks. A lot of vendors are already populating their banking information as they're updating and creating their PaymentWorks profiles. That then gets put into CFS, and we are able to, during the normal payment process, just to spit out an ACH directly into their bank account. They receive an email notification that they've received such payments. So I would absolutely recommend, if you're in touch with the vendors, let them know that this is an option now and route them to the procurement websites right there, the website, which will have a link to PaymentWorks, and you can give them access to log in and update their information and put in their bank and get payments directly. So that is huge. I'm excited to roll that out to you guys, let you know that that's an option. Yes, question.
So the ones that are already set up, the newer ones, will they get an email telling them that's not available and they can update it or not?
The question, yeah, the question is for vendors who have already set up their PaymentWorks profile, is there going to be an email sent out notifying that this is an option? The answer is no. We don't plan on sending a mass email out to all the vendors. That can be as you're in contact with the vendors, or you can give them that option. A lot of them are, like I said, already populating their bank account information as they're setting up their profile. So
If they have their bank information set up, the CSUMB then, when these go to that option with the bank information already complete, or you have to ask the vendor whether they want to go to that route.
the question is if the vendor does populate the bank information in PaymentWorks, is the ACH process automatically started, or does the vendor have to notify us that that's something that they want? Is it an option? I do believe that as soon as the bank information is in PaymentWorks, it gets put into CFS and it's automatically put into the ACH queue as opposed to a manual check queue. That is something that we can turn on and off, but the normal process would be as soon as the bank information is obtained, it's automatically set up for ACH payments.
So end users, we can't see whether or not they set it up. Okay, can we get a list of everybody who has? So we're not just contacting every vendor that we might do a purchase order with and saying, well, go into payment work.
Susan, if the question is will there be a list of vendors who have already given bank information so that we're not reaching out to every single vendor? Susan, is in the supplier information that the departments have, do they have access to see if they're set up for ACH or not?
That's level one.
That's level.
If it's safe to assume that vendors who were on the old version,
The STD, yeah.
we had to move forward. We're going to assume that the vendors who are in the industry have that. So, those of the first target workers saying update their information.
Exactly. The comment was regarding the vendors that have been set up years ago versus the newer vendors that are being set up. And is it safe to assume that the older vendors probably haven't provided bank information with the STD form that they've filled out? And that I would say, yes, that's safe to assume that if they are an old vendor, we have never asked for banking information. So we wouldn't have that. It would not be in PaymentWorks or in CFS. So that would be a good first step, is to contact the older established vendors to ask them to set up their PaymentWorks profile. A lot of them haven't set up PaymentWorks yet. So as they're setting up PaymentWorks, you can offer this as an option at that time.
And we can set up a report in CFS.
There is a report.
I mean, like a query, we can set up a report in CFS if the vendor has a banking information. It won't tell you what.
Of course, yeah, I can't even see that. Okay,
Just say yes or no, and then we'll audit.
I'll repeat that.
It
I'll repeat that.
would be really helpful, it sounds silly, but if procurement or accounting or somebody could just write up a couple of simple templates, you know. Here is a supplier who, we have been doing business with for years, who was migrated over and has not gone extinct. And this is just 3 sentences.
An email template,
So they
kind of.
can go, what is it they're asking me to do? And won't they pay me until I do this? Or, because they come back to us with questions.
Of course.
You know, which you don't have. And we can't get in, and we can get in and see the behind the scenes of what they're seeing.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we just see that, yes, they received their invitation and they've acted on it or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a very good suggestion. The suggestion is that whether procurement can provide some email templates for vendors, whether they're being newly set up in PaymentWorks, or a template to ask them to add their banking information and having ACH as an option. And that's a very good suggestion. I'll take that back to procurement and see if we can't get something out there. And also there was a comment on a report that would tell end users, the departments, whether a vendor is set up currently on ACH or if they're set up for manual paper checks. And we're told by ASM that there is a report or a query that could be created that would be ran. And what?
There is not one right now.
There's not right now. There is one that can be created. Yes, we will create. It's possible to create a query or a report that would have a list of vendors and whether they were set up for ACH payments or check payments. Yes, got a question.
Are there any changes to processing the paperwork for us that would like to do? So if I submit a direct payment request on an invoice, not tendered in ACH, client, you guys will automatic. I don't have to do.
Yeah, the question is regarding there's any change in the process or the payment request to let accounts payable know that this vendor is ACH payment versus check payment, or is it more of an automated process? And I would say it would be an automated process. The payment request would still come into accounts payable. I have an update for you guys on that. That's the next thing, so stay tuned. But this payment request would come into accounts payable, and if that vendor is set up for ACH payments, it would just automatically happen. There's no request needed by the department. Yes, Christy.
Right now, employees, you get reimbursed for travel or.
Yep.
I had to fill out a special form in order to get this. So is that process going to change?
The question is regarding employees and students as well. They already have the option to give us the bank information to be set up for ACH payments via a paper form. And the question is that going to change or be updated based on this? At this time, no. PaymentWorks is only being used for vendors, not for employees or students. So employees and students would still have to submit the direct deposit paper form. This would only be for a vendor ACHs, where we're able to collect bank information using PaymentWorks. Yes. Yes, any vendors, non-employee contractors would be using now PaymentWorks to set up and manage their information with us. Any other questions? Yes.
I'm just trying to figure out, is there an overall goal for the sake of efficiency to move more vendors to this approach, or is it a nicety for them? I'm not really getting the overall
Updates.
vision of what we should
Okay.
be fair about.
All right, repeating the kind of the question slash comment is there going to be a push to get vendors onboarded into Payment Works? Or is it more of an option, a nicety at this point? And Steve wants to address that question.
Well, so I'll talk to the whole Payment Works strategy, right?
Yeah.
We're in phase one right now. Phase one was to fix the front end of this so that you guys as users and the vendors as customers had a streamlined, simplified process. The results of that have been that we went from approximately 5 weeks on average to onboard a vendor. Now we're at 11 days on average. We've onboarded 170 or so vendors at this point through Payment Works, and we're running at about 11 days. So we've cut our processing time, and that's calendar days, not business days. So we've cut our processing time significantly to getting vendors set up. That's been just a huge, huge improvement. The ACH piece of this was also a big improvement. Now, phase two of the project right now is more, phase two becomes the back end piece of this, and I think this is where we're going with this. There's a phase 2A and B, I'll call them A and B. Phase 2A, not necessarily in an A and B order, but there are 2 parts to it. Phase 2A is getting all business units at CSUMB vendors into Payment Works. So the auxiliaries would also be using this for their vendorization process. So that's what we're working on next, along with the interface side of this. So we'll be interfacing to CFS directly with this, so that no CSUMB employee ever touches or sees any banking information, any level 1 data. We just never see it. The vendor inputs it into Payment Works and it goes directly into CFS. The other piece of that as part of phase 2B is we're also turning on all the invoicing and all the payment information. So a vendor can log into Payment Works and see their payment history. They can see what their accounts receivables are. They can see what day things were paid, how it was paid, if it's ACH or check, all that information will be remitted back into them into Payment Works. But right now, we've only got the front end working. We're working with San Jose on the back end piece of this. So once we get to that component, we're probably going to do a big push on the 80-20, right? 80% of our payments go to 20% of our vendors. Those 20%, we're going to do a big push for them to get into Payment Works. Then we'll start working on the others. The other piece of this is also the compliance side of things. It's the certificates of insurance. It's making sure that we're looking for debarred individuals, OFAC regulations, and all of those things. That all is also part of this. So we're going to have much higher levels of compliance with regards to federal regulations, banking regulations, and things like that. It'll be streamlined for the vendors. So it's going to take us another probably 6 to 8 months to get through phase 2A and B. But we're really excited about being able to do this for the campus. This is really moving us into much more of a shared services model, simplifying things for our vendors and just streamlining the whole operation. So what you're seeing right now is just literally phase 1 of getting the front end up and running. So just be patient. If you guys have feedback, please send it to one of us. Art, Miguel, myself, whomever. We're here to try and make this better for you guys. So. Not yet, because we're still trying to figure out what the scope of phase 2 is actually going to look like. I'm kind of a radicalist with what I want things to happen. And so I don't want to get into what I'm hoping we're able to do versus what we're able to do. As Susan and Venkat are squirming in their chair right now. They're saying, quit talking, Steve.
And also depending on San Jose's case, we'll have to implement the phase 2.
Right.
For information sources for us, but to be an overview of what's out there, what to expect.
Yeah, and that's why we have the project pages. So you go to Questica project page, you'll see all the Questica information. You go to Procure to Pay page, you'll see this information, what we've done, what we haven't. We haven't really dove into the next phases of Payment Works. I'm talking kind of out of turn, I guess. If Art were here, he'd be really nervous. But
we know what we want, but like you said, we haven't defined the scope of the next phase. And that's not.
So when you mentioned about what is application of phase 2, where you're trying to bring all of the vendors on the stage. And so I was thinking when we were talking about the ACH and we started, whether we the vendors that they are working with that are not on payment for from the vendor that generally. I'm thinking, would that be still be work?
Yeah, so the question is it going to end up being duplicate work if we are reaching out to vendors while we're simultaneously working on phase 2, part A and B? Yes and no. We'll be announcing when we're going to do phase 2 before we start it. So you guys will know. So until that happens, yes, by all means, you know, and I think that when I think about this from my previous lives, when a vendor would call for a payment, that's my opportunity. Like, do you know where my payment is? That's my opportunity to say, hey, did you know you can get ACH? And with ACH, you get emails that tell you you've received your payment, right? Oh, how do I get that? You go to, let me send you a link, right? And then boom. That's how I've typically done that segue in my past lives. But, you know, however you guys want to do it. Any other questions? Any questions online? No, nothing online? Yeah.
Would it make sense for another, either accounts payable or purchasing to contact these vendors? I mean,
We will do that.
we're talking about the 20% that we're paying, 80% is.
Yeah.
That aren't in the system because those are our primary vendors.
Right,
that
but
been around for years.
yeah, but accounts
Now
payable,
those vendors, so can't you make contact with
we're
them?
working on it. But again, we want to make sure we're waiting until we get this interface built, honestly, because of the volume of work associated to that. There's a volume of work that hits Miguel's desk right now that is manual work without the interfaces. And so once we get the interfaces is when we do that big push. And it's just about work product and expectations and being able to, you know, deliver services. So there was a question here, and then I'll come back to you. Does this impact payments on international vendors? We are still having international vendors. We're not wiring. We are not doing wires, right, on international. Is that right?
Very, very, very few.
Yeah, I mean, there's some.
Very select few.
I'm not
wires.
sure is the answer because I'm not that close to it. So I have to apologize.
Yeah. I mean, if they have U.S. source bank information.
Yeah, U.S. banking, we can
U.S. bank
definitely do it.
information, absolutely, but
I don't think the CSU really wants us doing that because of the OFAC rules and theft problems and everything else. Yeah, yeah.
I would say, yeah.
No, U.S.-based banking. The vendor can be international, but if they have a U.S. bank presence, then we're fine. So, question?
Yeah, just the general process. So you've got vendors that you want to encourage. All we're directing them is those current payment portals update their profile. And once they've done that, you all will know when you send our payment.
The system knows.
Yeah.
So when we do that check run, it won't drop a check, it'll drop an ACH. Yeah. Yeah. So the question was, again, another process question around if we submit our paperwork and the vendor has changed their payment type, will we know? And the system just does it based on that configurations. All right, I'll turn this back over to Brenna for the next exciting topic.
Exciting. Any other questions on vendor ACH before I move on to my next, I think, much more exciting announcement? All right, are we ready? I have a question first. Who absolutely loves the fact that we require paper payment requests with wet signatures always? Who loves that? You love it? Oh, this might be bad news for you, Marcel. Sorry. So the drum roll is, we are now able to use DocuSign to accept our digital signatures on all payment requests and electronic routing. Seriously, like big news, right? Can I get like, yes, big news here. So, this is huge. Now all you have to do is go into DocuSign. You're gonna have the same forms as you're printing out now. You fill it out, You can route it to all your signers, whoever you want approving it, whoever you want seeing it. And it gets routed electronically to accounts payable with any needed attachments. Yeah.
And this includes for those of us in academic affairs where there's multiple signatures required.
Yes, the question / comment was, does this include those who would like more than one signer or approver? Yes. I wanted to show you guys. So this link will need to be updated. It doesn't work, so.
Once it does work, I used it.
You've used it?
One
Well,
second,
now it doesn't.
everybody.
It stopped working.
It brought us here, but I got to change
Okay.
the sharing for these guys online so
Yes.
they see this.
So I wanted to show you what this kind of looks like and walk you through the process. I do have instructions that's just it's in their final review now.
You
It
see
will
it?
be,
Yeah.
it
Okay,
will be
you're on.
uploaded. Thank you. It will be uploaded to the accounting webpage. You didn't change it here.
Oh my goodness me.
So this is going to be where the instructions and a link to the DocuSign template is going to be on the accounts payable website.
Hold on a second here. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yes, quick question.
I use the PO related purchasing.
Yep.
I know that this is a good thing that we're doing this for payment processing. But on the PO, what can we actually do the DocuSign and everything all electronic?
For the PO request.
Right, PR, right.
Oh, isn't the purchase rec already on DocuSign? Purchase rec is already in DocuSign. It is.
But not invoice.
Say that again?
This is going to be purchase order invoices, purchase order requests, payment requests as
So
well.
the requisition has been out, it was rolled out within finance and within some of the A&S departments. It hasn't been officially rolled out across campus, but the requisition.
The rec, the purchase rec.
There's no reason you
Does it
couldn't
show?
use it.
We have a question.
If you desire.
What is,
Yeah.
now it's not showing? Hold on. I need to fix.
Sorry, everybody. I don't know what the hell I'm doing here. Let's see here. Try that.
Is that good? Yeah. Oh, we're good. And it's showing here. Okay, it's showing. All right.
There we go.
Okay. So the link that will be put up on the accounts payable website to the DocuSign template or DocuSign form will bring you to this is the template. You can just click use it, and that'll get you into the area where you can start modifying. So we have built in a prepare person. This is called like the envelope, what you call the envelope. It's gonna establish the routing and approvals. So we got the prepared by, same as the current form. We have set it up to have one approving authority because that's what that's all accounting requires. We do have an optional CC, someone who's just gonna get a copy of it. You can click the X here to remove it if you don't want just to send it to someone to see. The final, yes.
What if you have multiple?
I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I'll get there. Calm yourself. The comment was, what about multiple approvers? I know. We got to start through the process. We're going through the process here. Final approval is going to be accounts payable. So it will be given to accounts payable. And I wanted them to have to be an approver or a signer. That is going to be the point in which you as the department will know accounting has received it. We've reviewed it. We don't have any questions, and we've actually put it into the system to be paid. So this will answer the question is there any outstanding questions? Have you received it? Have you vouchered it? As soon as accounts payable approves it, that will notify the departments that we're good. We don't have any questions. We have everything we need. And it is in fact scheduled for payment. So to add signers, Steve, go just down to advanced editing. We're editing the envelope here. And again, this will all be in the instructions that will be put up on the website. And you can see this is kind of like in edit mode. You'll see the same prepares, but at the bottom, you see an option to add recipient. So you click. You can either drag this up and down to change the order, or you can just use the numbering system here to change the order of the signers. So you put in whoever you want to be able to sign it. They can either need to sign or they just receive a copy. There are a bunch of options here. So that is how you can add as many recipients.
It's important that it goes before.
Yes, you do need to change the order. Accounts payable always needs to be the last reviewer, or it defeats the whole purpose. Yes, question? Yep. Yep. Great question. The question was, as the preparer, the person who's initiating this, is it their responsibility to add all of the necessary approvers? And this is the point in which you would want to establish the routing. So the preparer would be the ones to add additional signers and to change the order of the signers. There is a way to change it down the road, but this would be the primary way that the preparer can modify the routing. Yeah.
Who would have control at what point for that kind of modification if a department, omits the does have a chair, it does have accounts payable. If that happens, then it won't come through the dean's office. And still get how do we
modify it down the road?
Right.
So the question is, how is it modified down the road? And I'll show you that a little bit later. There is a way to get in and to add what's called a modify the envelope is the option, and you can modify the signers at any point in the process. Question?
Two questions. I'm new to
Yeah.
Red Bay, could you send us Jerry Farmer?
Hi.
Question one is, can you save a template if you're always sending it routing one way? That would be the first question.
The question is, can you save a template with particular routing information if you're doing it multiple times? Yes. Yes. Good question. The answer is yes. Yeah. We do want to minimize the amount of modifying and saving of template after template because there is a risk of the information becoming changed inadvertently. But as far as just changing and saving the envelope, there is a way to create a copy of a template and to save it as a copy.
That made me think of another one.
Yes.
In between it, could you make it not person?
Unfortunately not. Not at this point.
The last question is, I work the program.
Yeah.
I was at Samsung. Here she signs a lot of stuff. So what is the signature level authority for the, is there a dollar amount? We started off, you go,
As a campus, we follow field policy. Divisions, some of the divisions have more strict rules. We do not dictate what the divisions do. We're going to get out of one of the rules. That's our routine. The other divisions have different routing rules, and that's a discussion we have with them about why it's overkill.
I can see this.
Yeah.
I can see the VP that's already getting tons of emails. Crazy.
Or it could be paper today.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the,
There's an electronic queue that can log in, they'll see all their stuff in the queue.
So can you just not have to click into it, they can see a line that says.
Yeah, if you go into OnBase, you can see the queue, right? Everything is signed to you.
So the discussion for those online that's been happening is just regarding the need for additional signatures and the provost who might be receiving a ton of requests, and if there's a level of authority dollar amount that has been established. And the discussion was just regarding it's a division and department decision who signs, who reviews, and how many. From accounting's perspective, we just need one approver who has fiscal authority over that fund department. So we only require one, but it is the department or division's decision, any additional approving or routing needed. Yes. Oh, Christy, yeah. That's what I'll get to you.
Okay, sometimes there's
Of course, yes.
and sometimes I can go ahead and sign off, and sometimes it's forward again. So what I have to build is the
I believe so. We can play with that down. Let me add a signature here so that we can, I do think, yeah, down the road, there is the option to modify the envelope, which I do know you can add for sure. I haven't specifically played with whether you can remove.
right now it's fine. Now I noticed that you're, unless you're just doing this, you know, but not here.
Yeah.
You put yourself as preparer and putting authority.
Yes. You're not supposed to. This is just for my purposes so that I can walk you through both the preparing and the approval process. But yes, no, you would not have the same preparer and approver usually. That's just for this purpose, so I can actually let you see it. Yeah, we don't want that. All right. So.
I got a question kind of based off of what Christy and Gary were both asking.
Yep.
Is there a way to work with each of the divisions, create maybe an envelope template in that space, and Christy can tell any of the folks, okay, where you go, and then we'll already have in there the number of signatures ending with either Christy or Ronnie prior to going to county. Is there a way to do that so they have a division envelope?
Yeah, the question was, again, whether there's the ability to save envelopes with a certain number of approvers or even certain approvers already set up. And yeah, there is an option to save a copy of these templates and to change the envelope and routing information and save that and then distribute it as needed. Again, we want to minimize the amount of modifying the templates so we don't risk.
That might be a way to do that if the divisions have their own, and then there's not, you know, need to add more, save more. Some of the divisions may be like A&M is, where it only needs one signature before it goes.
Yeah. So there is the ability to save a copy of a template and to modify it. And then share it with additional users. You would have to then share it with specific people. But that is an option. Yes, another question.
Maybe a Susan question.
Okay.
If we do a purchase requisition and have it signed and DocuSign, and we then submit the invoice as well? Electronic signature?
The invoice?
So is this?
Okay, if we do a purchase POR that turns into a purchase order, and then the invoice comes along and we want to pay.
Well, the invoice would go with
The payment request. Yeah, so the purchase order.
This is for invoices on PO as well.
This, as soon as I get to the actual form, you will see that this one form, it is going to Let me just go there. I think, let me make sure I'm set up. I can have all the. Well, no. This is just the routing. The routing is exciting too, that you guys can add the routing that you need and add additional approvers. So now that we've had all of my approvers set up, I'm approving everything. Any questions on the envelope routing? Yes, Yolanda.
So if you're adding the approvers, so does that mean that anyone along the routing can just add in the field?
The question is if you are adding approvers, then can anyone along the line add and delete approvers or information on the payment request? The answer is yes. There is a history kept. I'll show you that in a little bit. There is a history where you can see any changes that have been made down in any point in the process. So that is recorded. So people can't just make changes willy-nilly. They can, but people are going to see what changes are made. They can't kind of fly under the radar and be making changes. So, any other routing? Yes. Great question. The question is this a mandatory process or is this an optional process? At this point, this is fully optional. I really think this will hugely benefit the departments as far as being able to track the requests through the approving process. You're going to be able to see when accounts payable has received it and vouchered it, but it is optional at this point. I think down the road, we're going to see huge time savings and huge just workload improvements that we can then relay to those who aren't maybe adopting this and be like, hey, this is saving weeks of time in getting a vendor paid. Oh yeah, we have been, I didn't mention this, we have been piloting this form for months now with facilities and CPD. So they've been using it and I hear rave reviews.
Yeah, what's nice is you don't have to hunt everybody down, you just touch it once. You know, you put in, you call it the routing, and then you put in your invoice and the backup paperwork if you need it, and then you send it on. And there's been times where someone will call me, they don't need to sign it, or they need to add one, and I can just correct it, and then go back to the routing and change it. So it's all real easy and technically, so it's, yeah, one time you touch it once.
Yeah, so what we're being told for those of you online is that the nice part of this is you do just touch it once and then it's routed to everyone. You don't have to go hunt people down, track them down, and it's just one touch and it's sent and you can track it through the process. You can modify who is the approver throughout the process. So it's very easy, user-friendly, and a lot less time intensive, it sounds like, than the old paper ways. Yes.
So I think we could remote, right, several roles.
Yep. So what's going to happen as far as approvals is you get an email. Each person through the process will receive an email. You've got a DocuSign form to approve. Click on the email. It'll open up DocuSign from a phone, from a tablet, remotely, and that person can then view the payment request, view any attachments, and approve it remotely. So yeah, there's a DocuSign app as well that even makes it easier to use.
So with a credit card, how do the managers sign off the response time? Or do they know that they have this on their field already and it's not being lost? Because, I mean, we use our service ticket on the IT. We use it
Hey, Angela, can I borrow you a quick minute?
updating the service report, service ticket.
Got it. Yeah, so the
kind of curious if they get converted and
Yeah, so the
Yeah.
question is for regarding the piloting program, what has been noticed as far as the approval timeline, and are things getting approved faster, or is the requests being lost in the emails?
Yes, they're getting approved faster, and if for some reason it gets lost in our email, I can just hit resend.
Yep. So the answer is yes, things are getting approved much faster, and in the event that there isn't a timely response received, or it gets lost in the email, there's a very easy function to resend to that individual, the next approver in the line, so you can resend. And also, I'll comment that there are reminders set up in DocuSign. If you're next on the list,
Yeah.
you haven't responded yet, we've set it up currently for weekly reminders to be emailed out to the next individual. I know this works from personal experience, because as I've been playing with this, I keep getting reminders and reminders that I haven't approved my tests. So, yeah. Okay. Yep. So the question is,
Like your document's finalized, it's approved, it's going into queue, and you have
okay, the question is when accounts payable has received it and approved it, can there be a CC? The good news is once the document is fully approved by the last person, which would be accounts payable, everybody gets an email saying that this document has been finalized. Here's a copy of the fully executed payment request. So as soon as accounts payable does approve it, everyone will get notified throughout the chain. In the back.
A few times in my personal life, and two things that I really enjoy, I hope are also here to make. My question is, does the system allow, like, say if it's in your office, and you're like, hey, Jason, you forgot to fill this in attendees, we can't voucher this, so you show us who attended that event. Will you be able to send those comments digitally back?
It's a great question. The question is in the event that it does get to accounts payable and accounts payable is reviewing the document, noticing that something is missing, is there an option to go and request additional information from someone throughout in the line? The answer is yes. Accounts payable, as they are reviewing, there is a comment feature where they can add a comment to a particular area on the payment requests, and they can send that comment to users, to individuals on the envelope. So they can then request additional information, notify departments that something is wrong or missing. So.
My other question is, when can we expect service agreements? We could work with third parties.
So the question, So the question is, what about service agreements? What's the timeline for getting service agreements in this process as well? And we're telling them to hold their horses. One step at a time. We will get there eventually. But yeah, this is a huge step forward, I think. Can we get in that? Yeah, can we get on with this? Christy, one last question from Christy. No. The question is accounts payable the only one that can kick it back and request changes or additional information? And no, anyone on the envelope is able to create a comment and send a comment to the preparer or somebody in the line of approvals. Can I hit next yet? Okay. This is really the exciting part. Oh, actually, never mind. First, since I have added a signer, I do need to, if I can get, there we go. Shh, that's later. I do need to go down and actually add that signature field to the document. So this is going to prompt me to do that. So I do need to add, what's that? Yeah. I don't think you have to do it this way.
It's all designed for one of keeping ad hoc people to it, but it's a lot of work to ad hoc people.
It is. Yeah, it's a little bit of a work. You have to add the signers, the actual signature to the form.
Well,
This is kind of why
it's really designed for one of, well, it's designed for one of.
Yeah.
We can do more.
You can do more, but it does add, it's clunky. It adds time to have to add signatures.
Yeah, but they only have one.
So, yeah, so then I have to add in the project manager and it's not even.
Yeah, so the comment is during the piloting program, there have been instances where additional initials or additional approvers were needed, and it wasn't a huge undertaking to add those.
Yeah, hi, this is
Yes,
Crisinda calling from
the
CSUMB.
signatures are added
Somebody left me a
on the front
message
end.
about some items. They were out of items. So I'm returning your call.
A CC, yeah, a CC.
Sucaro, Z is in zebra, UCCARO.
Oh,
Some editions have like 5 approvals.
yeah.
Yeah, here's the order number, and the last 4 digits is 5000.
Yeah, the divisions are, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, building a template for the entire campus, yeah, is a challenge. This is huge, yeah.
Someone, if it's Christy, should be like, oh, let me add this person in, but basically you need to get that.
Okay. All right.
So what I'm hearing is the users are advocating for Steve to shut the hell up.
Yes.
Get on with the form.
This isn't that clunky, Steve. This is a huge improvement, Steve. All right, so now that I think I've added all the signers, let's see, it'll tell me if I haven't added all the signers. I can hit send. And this is sending it to the preparer. And this is all matter. This is it. Let me see if I can. Oh yeah, let's go back. So this would be, it's waiting for others. This is tracking the payment request form. You can resend it. And this also, this is the listing of everything that you might have pending. This is also where you can correct the form, which is what you would use to modify the envelope, add recipients or delete recipients. So this is where you can correct it as well. But for the sake of time, I am just going to see. You know what? I think I have to log in as myself. Sorry, I'm logged in as Steve right now. Sorry guys, hold on. How do I log out of this? I need to log in as myself because I can't.
On the face of the top right of the screen, you can go
Top.
incognito.
Like this?
No, just above it, like that, and then it should, maybe what, there's 3 dots. I can't see. You need to go private, and then you can log in.
Oh.
What are we trying to do?
I need to log in.
What's necessary? Yeah, it's like.
She needs to log in
As
This was supposed to be like
Just,
10 minutes.
well, they kept asking questions.
I know. Oh my God, don't do that.
Don't log out.
We think about this. Don't
I
do
need,
that. You're gonna script the presentation.
okay. I need to log out of your DocuSign and into my DocuSign is really what I need to do here. Or you know what I can do? Hold on.
Yeah, just walk through it. Just walk us through it, okay?
I'm gonna add you. You're
No,
gonna
it's
be.
Andrea, it's not me.
Are you logged in as you or Andrea?
Andrea.
Andrea? Okay. I'm just gonna change this to Andrea. Huh? Okay. So that's an example of me modifying it. Okay. I'm correcting. So I'm sending it to Andrea, to myself as the approver or as the preparer. Okay. So the creator, the preparer will get the option to actually modify the template at that time, or they will get an email that they can go in and actually fill out the form later. So here, finally, we get to the actual form. It should look very similar to the payment requests that we already have in paper form. And here's the big news. You can select either personal reimbursement. So this is going to be your personal reimbursement petty cash form. This is going to be your direct pay request form. And this is also going to be your PO payment request form all in one. Based on what you select, the fields will change. It'll ask for PO information if you've selected a PO payment and such. But we will do direct pay. It's going to ask you, same as the old form, is a service provided? Yeah, if yes, you're going to see the questions down below about is there a contract in place? If there is a service provided, we expect a service agreement or contract to be in place. Is this a new supplier? If it's yes, sorry, you got to stop. Go to PaymentWorks, get them set up in the system. This is not a way to add a new vendor into the system. So you got to do that in PaymentWorks first. So I'm just going to fill out. Haven't done this on this laptop yet. So one line is required. There is additional rows if you need as an option, but we just need one line filled out. Again, this is the same form, the same information as you would have filled out on the paper version. Sorry, I've got to fill out all this stuff too. And I'm just going to put no, a service was not provided because I don't want to answer the questions. I'm sorry? It will not know. That's a good comment is when you put the dollar amounts, the total column is not set up as a formula to automatically add. So you will have to add them yourself. So go here, I'm preparing, I'm signing that you just click on it and it's going to sign. This is where you upload an attachment, any sort of invoice, receipts. You would attach them here and signing. As soon as I'm the preparer, I'm done filling it out, I can finish, it goes to the approver. The approver is going to get an email and be notified that they need to click and approve. Trying to get through this quickly. All right, so now I'm Andrea as the approver. I can go in, approve it. This other actions is kind of cool. This is where you can see the history. Any changes to the document, changes to the approvers, it's going to be here in view history. Continue. Thanks. All right, so now I'm seeing filled out form with an attachment, theoretically, that I could open if there was an attachment. So the reviewer would then review And can finish. Or start. And I'm signing off as the reviewer there. Here, right here, there's the add comment feature. If I am the reviewer and I have a question, I can add a comment. You write a comment, you select a recipient to send it to. Very, very easy, very straightforward. It'll send an email to that person with the comments and prompt them to update or change. So then I can finish as the approver. And then it continues down essentially the envelope until it gets to accounts payable. Trying to think if there's anything else. Any other questions? Well, I think, yes, Andrea. Yes. Yeah, so Andrea's mentioning as she's preparing it, she receives an email right away that she can click on and it will open up the document to prepare it and fill it out. When I've tested it, I actually get a prompt as I send it to the preparer, and the preparer is me. It gives me the option to sign it now or sign it later. I can click on sign it now and it just opens up the form for me to fill out right then and there. Any questions? I know this is a lot. Again, there's going to be instructions online on the accounts payable website put up to walk you through the process a little bit more. Andrew?
Is there automatic validation for the signer? Like once the preparer puts in a chart string, will it verify that the approving authority you entered initially is actually the person who has to sign for that chart string?
Great question. The question is there any sort of validation for the approver being the actual person who needs to approve that chart string, that fund or department? Unfortunately, at this time, the answer is no. Accounts payable has been instructed that that is a little bit of a loophole, and they will continue to review the appropriate signing authorities.
Just like we do today on paper.
Just like we do today in paper, they are reviewing who's signing and if that is the appropriate signer for that chart string. So they will continue to have to do that.
There is no integration.
Yeah.
With DocuSign. I mean, it integrates with single sign-on, but there is no CFS.
Yeah, there's no CFS integration for DocuSign at this time.
And another question is, when we submit things like this, how long do we have to hold on to the paper copy or on receipt?
Question is if they are utilizing this electronic process, how long would they want to hold on to the paper copy? I guess that's on a department by department decision, but
What's the policy? What's the CO's policy?
the CO's policy, that would be as soon as accounts payable receives it and has processed the payment, they will hold on to a copy of the valid. The digital copy is the official.
Accounts payable will be printed inside.
Yes,
And it's marked by
correct. At the moment, accounts payable still is going to be printing out this request and all attachments and retaining a copy in the vendor file. Eventually, we will move on into electronically storing copies of all of these requests. So, but accounts payable will still maintain a copy of the actual valid approved request. Does that kind of answer your question, Andrew?
kind of.
I would say as soon as they pay it, that's where the questions end, and we know we don't need any more information. We have what we need. So as soon as the payment is rendered, I would say yep, more questions.
Prior to this, what was the retention timeline for the paper copies that accounts payable?
It's 4 year. It's a 4-year retention. Yeah, accounts payable retains copies of all payments and all of the repayment requests for 4 years. That's the retention. Nope, this is the actual live version is what accounts payable is going record.
If we lose it, that's on us.
Yep.
And we take it out.
Yeah, so accounts payable will retain the official copy of the payment requests and all backup associated with that.
And so then we actually do get a notification when payment's been processed or only when it's been vouchered.
So you will get notified when accounts payable has approved the payment request, which signifies that they have reviewed it, they have all the information they need, they don't have any questions, and they have vouchered it into CFS for payment. So the payment has been scheduled, not necessarily that the payment has been made yet.
When we see the scheduled pay date, so that then we can purchase paper copies.
Great question, Andrew. The question is, will they see the scheduled pay date based on what the email they get? The answer is not officially. You're not going to see that information populated. However, the accounts payables process is to schedule it for the next pay date, which would be Thursday. So if they vouchered it into the system, they're vouchering it for the next Thursday check run.
But we also, at that point, that becomes the official record.
That's true. That does become the official record is once accounts payable has received it and approved it. Then it's on us. It's on us. Yeah, whatever happens to it. So, question, Christy.
So I see if there's a top, you got something that says report.
Yes, reports. That is something that's functional. It's something I haven't quite played with yet. Let's see what the options are. I haven't played with this, sorry. So I do know that there's reporting functions that will let you know if there's outstanding things that haven't been touched, if things are hung up in the system. There's reports that can be generated, like if it's sat for a week, it will spit out any of those type of, let's see. This is what I'm seeing.
This is just about volume.
This is volume currently.
This is our sustainability dashboard.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was just wondering,
Which is actually really cool.
is, I guess you have an option to look at the.
So
history, but let's say,
this is,
paper process,
mm-hmm.
you know, it's taken care of and everything, but for whatever reason, I can go back and look at that.
Yep.
How do I?
Great question, and I'm actually right here. It's under manage. So this is Andrea's, but these are all you see. There's completed forms. So anything that has been completed, you'll be able to continue to access that. And this is also an area where you can see waiting for others and when it was last changed. If it's been sitting for too long, you'll be able to see that as well. How to what? Delete one? We don't want this one anymore? So instead of resending, this is waiting. Instead of resending this one, I can do drop down. I could correct it if I wanted to send it to somebody else that might be a little bit more responsive, or oops. Or I can, another option is just to delete it. And it tells me that this process is going to be voided. I delete it and it's gone. So you can delete things that you don't need anymore. Ta-da! It's deleted.
The title, let's just take it on multiple payment requests that they sent out.
Oh, good question.
Differentiate which one
Which one is which? Yeah, so the question is with, say I have multiple payment requests here from Brenna Dresser even. How do I differentiate? Unfortunately, there isn't a way at this point to differentiate, to modify the title here. Yes, you can?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm told you can.
At the very beginning, it will have all the emails of what it's given to, and then you can put in there the topic, and I usually put in the company name and the invoice number, and then I put a little comment, please review and initial, please review and sign.
Let's see.
And that will.
So Tammy, you're talking here at the bottom,
Yeah, right there.
this email. Here you go.
Email subject, and then.
You can modify this. That's good to know. Thank you. So you can modify this. I like that, to be a payment, whoever the vendor is and the date, so that you can identify it more easily. It's great. Thank you. Question, comments? We're kind of running out of time, everyone. We're out of time. Any questions, comments? You can direct them to myself, accounts payable, if it's more just payment process related. I'd be happy to answer any questions. And again, the instructions will be on the accounts payable website along with a link to the template. Yay!
Thank you, Brenna.